Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Entry Point Hunting Podcast, the only hunting podcast that its hosts openly admit that they don't know jack. My name is Drew.
And I am Justina.
And we're very excited to have Jason and Jennifer here today to share a little bit of information about your experiences hunting and all the questions we might be able to ask. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
So yeah, maybe a good place to start off is where you guys started off. How did you both kind of get into hunting in the first place?
I've always really, ever since I was a kid, really been into going out in the bush and enjoying the outdoors. Never ended up getting my gun license or my PAL or a hunting license until I was into my 20s. But a friend of mine was going out quite often, and he asked me if I wanted to go with him. And so we went with them. And it was absolutely amazing. We ended up getting a couple moose that trip. And yeah, what's amazing about it is, we ended up hiking through like 3 feet of snow, and we got the animals like 1.5 kilometers away from the truck. And so hauling them piece by piece out to the vehicle was like one of the best parts of the trip, which was amazing. And, but it looked like a bloodbath because it was all snow and you wouldn't get lost because you just followed the blood trail. Right. So
oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's how I got into hunting. That was my first trip, and it was amazing.
That's if everyone's first trip was like that, there'd be a lot more hunters in the world.
Yeah.
What about you, Jen? What was your origins into hunting?
Basically, he was going out all the time, and then I was always with the kids. So, and the kids didn't, he'd bring my son, but not like we wouldn't go. And so once the kids moved out, then I was like, maybe I'll start going hunting with them because I have no little kids to take care of anymore. So we can go out together as a couple, and yeah.
How were those first hunting trips for you guys going out together? Like that's an interesting dynamic to be a couple and going hunting, because it's very much an individual sport, but also can be a team thing to do together.
He loves it because he doesn't have to be with any stinky guys, and then we live in the same household. So the main thing is, if we get meat, then we're good.
Yeah, you don't have to split it with anybody.
Exactly.
Yeah. Having that support network at home to help you process it makes all the difference.
Yeah, totally.
Also helps for timing, not having to coordinate with like, hey, let's meet at this spot at this time and like get up at 4 a.m. to be there together. And you're like, when you wake up by yourself, you're like, I'm so lazy, I don't want to do it. But if there's somebody else there, it's like, all right, let's go.
Yep.
Yeah, it's super interesting that you got your first trip to have somebody to take you out. I don't know anybody else that gets into hunting and doesn't have that someone that can take them in. That's the especially hard way. But to be able to get a moose out while you're out there and like have success. I got an animal early on in my career, and that set unrealistic expectations for me that I still to this day haven't really lived up to. So.
Jen, was your first trip also a double moose or what?
No, I can't. What was my first trip? Do you remember? I almost don't remember.
How long ago was that? Like, when did you start diving into that world?
I don't even remember.
It's probably, for me, it's been about probably eight years, something like that. So 5, 6 for you at least, right?
Yeah. Wow. And what have you guys, like, from when you started till now, what's the progression of what you've been hunting for? Like, what did you start with, and what do you guys hunt now?
So we started with mainly, I think, he did with moose, and then because we were in the Lower Mainland then, and you had to drive all the way out, stay the nights and stuff. But with me, it's mainly just getting out there, and because I like hiking and stuff, and then deer, moose, elk, I like them all. So
we're meat eaters.
Yep.
So whatever we can eat, we will take it home.
Yep.
And and now you guys are in the Okanagan, so maybe tell us a bit about what that transition has been like, going from being hunters in the Lower Mainland to being hunters who have their own acreage and back onto Crown land that you can hunt.
It's awesome.
Jen, you ended up
there's a lot more to hunt around here than back
for sure.
Back in the Lower Mainland. You had to drive forever, it seemed, to get somewhere, right? Whereas here we can hunt in the Okanagan in places and be close, but yet we can go further if we wanted to.
Yeah, being out on the coast, it seems like any outdoor activity just became infinitely more complicated when you wanted to get out. And here you've got animals sometimes unwantingly strolling into our backyards.
Yeah, and the rain is a big difference.
Yes.
In Lower Mainland or island, we grew up on the island. It was always raining, and so we still hunt on the island for certain years when we get draws, but it seems to be always raining. So every trip you be prepared to get wet, like all day long wet.
Yeah,
but Lower Mainland, bring boots, But here, it hardly ever rains, so you're dry like 90-something% of the time, which is nice.
That sounds terrible. So, okay, I want to dive into that for 1 second. If you're hunting in areas where it is perpetually wet, what's the mindset or the whatever that gets you through being wet, uncomfortable, cold, having to lug around lots of extra gear? Like, how do you work through that when you're on a 1 or 2 or 3 or multi-day hunt?
It's a big mindset game for sure. You just always bring extra clothes. So, when you get back to camp, you're going to have clean clothes to get into or dry clothes to get into. Same with boots. I'm sort of, I overpack when I go. And so I always, I'll bring 3-4 pairs of boots. And I know they're going to be dry by the fire by the time I get back, the other ones. But just in case they're not, I want to have ones, because I don't like being wet. So
there's no way of hiking through the wet set.
What was that?
Go ahead, Justina.
I just said being prepared for the elements and knowing where you're hunting is kind of crucial if you're going to be in an area that's either super wet or super dry. Like having the different supplies ready and prepared is I guess a key thing there. Yeah,
for sure. And you're not prepared for all, like, to be wet all day, even if you have Gore-Tex, everything. When you're like one trip on the island, we were there early season to check it out, the area, and it was fairly dry. All right. And then we go back during hunting season, and where we were hiking and walking, there's probably 8 to 10 feet of swamp in places where we were walking where it was dry.
Wow.
And so there's times when we're walking, we're hitting knee-deep water, going through some areas that we had scoped out, that wasn't there before. And so, it was, but
island hunting for you.
Yeah, it's island hunting.
Do you guys bring like big water waders that you like for that kind of scenario, or was the key takeaway on that trip like maybe talk to some locals about the time that you want to hunt there?
Yeah, that's a learning experience, right? That's don't go to those areas, right? But you don't know until it happens, right? So
that's something that I've always had a question of. Always, I say always, like I've been hunting for my whole life. For the last 5 months, I've had that question of, people always talk about out of season scouting. And like you just gave a perfect example. Okay, so you go and you scout ahead of time, and then it's completely different when you actually want to be there in season. So, I mean, what do you guys do these days when you want to go to an area?
When you do pre-scout if you can, but it's it's just getting into it and just going. Same with game cams. You set up pre-season game cams, you'll get tons of animals coming through, but then when it opens, you don't see a single one, right? And so that's hunting, right? So it's and it always changes.
Yeah.
We like we live here, as you know, Drew, and up in the bush, and even here, you think you get to know the animals, and they're the masters of their element. We are not. We have a totally different element.
Well, I set up all our trail cams early this or last year, and you get all the stuff traveling through and you figure it out. And then, if you try to actually figure it out, there's just no pattern to it. And I think it's also like deer during hunting season, the day before the season, everything's out there. It's relaxed. It's everybody's visiting. And then the day it opens, everybody's in town and hiding away from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, how do you guys, what do you do with that? Like, how do you take the information that you learned pre-scouting, like preseason scouting, and then actually apply that information during hunting season? Like where's the connection point? What information is useful?
You can answer this one.
Oh, really?
He's like, that one's hard. You take it.
Yeah, he's like, no. What's my takeaway? I think you just got to go. And if you see them, you see them. If you don't, you don't.
So preseason is really just to more like get a lay of the land for yourself, knowledge-wise, of knowing what the environment is that you're hunting in, but not necessarily the animals' patterns, because they're changing so much from preseason to actual hunting season.
Yeah, it's, don't go out too early, of course, because even this year, I was out. It wasn't really preseason, but it was still before they were sort of coming in. And I found out this year with the moose, they only like to stay in an area that I've noticed for like 3 days. And so once they've left, there was not a single sign. And I went back the next day trying to find them again. And I'm like, why do I keep coming back here? If there's no sign, there's no sign, right? And so mainly it's you want to pre-scout to see if there's been sign of them there. And if there isn't any sign in the area, get out of the area. Don't even just leave, because it's they're not there, right? And so because they're big animals, right? And they're going to show you that they've been there.
Yeah, I think, Jay, you were saying to me at one point that you noticed, I mean, that's a really good thing to note in taking knowledge from preseason scouting, is that, you can at least learn something about the animal habits. Yeah, they're only there for 3 or 4 days and then they're gone. And I think you had said to me at some point that they kind of circle or they come back or something like that, like in routine patterns that way. So you might see them for a few days and then they're gone for weeks and then they come back for a few days.
Yeah. Like on our snowshoe hike there, remember we were seeing that the bull moose tracks. Well, anyway, right behind our house, I was just out there today, and he was right out my window.
No way.
Yeah, and so they're you never know when they're gonna come through, but it's sort of that same basic area. And I bet you if I was to go, now that it's been a few days, if I was to go out and look for him, he'd probably be long gone.
Yeah,
so,
interesting.
Yeah.
The like psychology of animals is something that I find, like, you want to be like, oh, this is his home and this is where he lives. And, I speak to some guides, things like that. And they're like, oh yeah, this one's going to move like this. And then you're going to see this guy's going to be over here this day. And they're good and they know, and all these things. I'm like, man, I have no idea how I'm like, yeah, I saw one there. And then I went back and, like you said, he wasn't there again. And I was really counting on that for the freezer. But what have you guys seen for like movement and maybe just any animal that you really feel confident with, whether it's deer or moose or anything like that? How are you seeing that change through the season?
Like how they move, or like how they
yeah, I mean, are certain ones sticking around longer? Is that their range? Do they have a huge range? Is there a home? Or are they just wandering everywhere?
Yeah, like I noticed, because we've since we moved to this area, we've become we can actually say we're elk hunters now, because Jen got a 6-point elk, and so yeah, high five.
But again, that was like we walk upon them; they didn't know we're yet there, and it was easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's consistency, right?
Right,
Just
yeah.
getting out, and
We knew they were around.
We knew they were there. They're going to be there. But I noticed with the elk in the area, they do have a big area that they travel through. And I do notice they come through probably at least once a month or so, and stay in the area for a bit and then move on again. And so they're always sort of passing through. Same with the moose. I knew the moose were, as soon as the snow gets deep up top, I knew they were going to be down towards our place and start seeing them again, because they just, there's a certain time they do come around, and of course it's after hunting season, and so
Yeah, they're like, yeah, memo, yeah, okay, hunting season's over, perfect, now we can go down.
they know.
Yep.
Is it mostly that you find that they're coming down for food because it's getting so snowy up top?
Yeah, I believe that's, yeah, they're migrating down for sure for food.
Mm.
And is
Even
that
though-
something?
Go ahead.
Well, just is that something that you're looking for when you're scouting? You know, I know bears, they always say south-facing slopes early in the spring, and but are you looking at kind of food stores and things that they're going to be enjoying, or is it terrain, or what are you looking when you're out for a wander early season?
They're the same as us, right? They need food, shelter, and
Water.
in water, and so you find those three areas around, and you're going to find track, right? And that's big when you're hunting. For me, and I think for anybody, it's track. Because when I started hunting, I didn't know how to track them. I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know the difference from what, and just getting out there and spending time with them, and seeing how they respond to things. It was amazing how much you learn, the animal.
When you say that they're coming down, I mean, like you named off sort of the three basics that we need and that they need. When, say, moose or elk are coming down lower because the snow was getting so intense and heavy up top, what kind of foods do you see them mostly eating in the Okanagan area anyways, which is where we're all based in? What kind of foods are they looking for?
They eat branches.
Just straight up branches.
That's what they eat, man. Like if you go out and check out Mr. Moose out in my backyard, he'll go to the end of the branch. There's certain trees, I can't remember the name of them at the moment, but they have little buds on them, and they'll start at the bottom of the branch, and they'll run their teeth along the edge of along the branch, and then they start munching, and that's what they eat.
Well, it's ripped out our apple tree before too.
Ripped out your apple tree, like just from pulling so hard?
A little baby apple tree, and he ripped it and he pulled it down the bank.
Oh no.
So I don't know if we'll ever get apples out of that one, but
we're hoping.
He replanted it because he saw the tracks and he grabbed the apple tree, and yeah, it was funny.
And I've blocked it off like this year actually. And I went out and his tracks were around it, but he couldn't get to it, so my fence worked.
Now, are the apples for home consumption or to encourage more animals coming to visit?
Encourage more animals to come around.
So it's working.
Yeah, it's working. Yeah, my first season moving up here, I called it my deer garden. Because I planted food that they like, all right? So just to see them come around. And it's
which would be what? Like what kind of foods are you planting? So, I mean, we don't have like tons of ag here other than wineries and apple orchards and stuff, which are usually closer into town, so harder to get permissions or whatever to hunt on them. But you guys are further up more out into the bush. So when you are planting and trying to attract more animals to be in the vicinity that you want to hunt, what do you plant to attract them?
There's certain gourd type vegetables that they like, but really? It's mostly the greens that they like, right? And so they don't even actually like popping the carrots out and eating them. They like the greenery, like the fresh buds that come from whatever plant, and so that's mainly their diet. Even now, late season, if you were to go walk in the bush. We have a lot of those. They're a pest plant, they actually have signs about how they're invasive plants. They're always trying to get rid of them. They're those purple blooming weeds that grow everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
They're seed form right now, and I'll go walk in the bush here, and there's deer tracks loaded around them, and they're ripping them apart. And so it's, that's their food right now, right?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
amazing. It's amazing what they eat.
Yeah. Anything, I guess, if you're hungry.
Yeah.
New fallen trees too from the wind and stuff. They are around those too.
Yeah, pine trees when they fall, go get a blind around, make up a blind around a fallen pine tree, and stay there, because within a day or two they'll come around.
Interesting. I wonder why that is. Like just the exposed part of the tree that's now available because it's softer, or like the stuff that grows up around it because of that.
Yeah, it's the little buds that are on the end of the tips of the branches, what they get the nutrients from. And they already eat up, like, because they're so tall, they already eat them from the low areas. So when the large ones do fall, that's a couple days of food for them, right?
I see.
Yeah.
Now that's smart. So what you're saying is I should just go chop down some trees. No, just kidding.
There's no shortage of them naturally coming down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when there's wind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a unique opportunity that you guys have to be able to harvest a crop in the backyard for attracting deer and things. Have you ever done any salt licks, anything like that out in the bush, or done any activities to kind of prep for where you're going to be hunting?
Not really. Because I'm not really a stay still hunter. I'm a big walker, and so I like to actually hunt them, even when because we're bow hunters also, and so we're preseason. We get that extra few days in the beginning, and it's amazing how many you do see preseason hunting. But we, to stay still, I've tried tree stands. I've tried. And it's me, right? I have a hard time staying still.
I'll sit there, I can sit there for hours.
Really? Yeah. I have a hard time with that. And I think that's, for me, it's a lack of knowledge of what's the right spot to sit. And, you get 20, 30 minutes into, I'm like, did I pick the wrong spot? Maybe if it's just like 20 yards over there, I should be sitting over there because that's actually where they're crossing. I'll just go over there. And then I end up walking the entire time because I'm like, well, maybe it's just past here a little bit more.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. So what got you guys into bow hunting, and how do you find bow hunting versus rifle hunting? Like the differences between them?
Like I said, it's early season. Right?
The deer aren't scared yet. Once they hear that first gunshot, they seem to disappear.
Yeah.
But you have to be like an exceptionally better hunter to bow hunt, because I mean, your range is a lot shorter than what you get with a rifle. So to be able to get that close to a deer, I imagine takes quite a bit more patience and skill. Yeah,
for sure. A lot of it's timing too, right? Yeah. When you're out there, they're going to be like Jen said, they're there or they're not many times. I know you can watch the videos and how, like Drew, you mentioned, these pros know exactly what they're doing all the time. And we live with them here, and I don't know exactly what they're doing all the time. And so it's mostly just coming across like our neighbor, he's a bow hunter too, but like this year he got his big buck sleeping like 50 feet in front of him, and he drove right up to him with a side by side, and he didn't wake up. It's just
it's timing.
It's timing.
I just want the stupid ones that hear me and come to explore. Like, that's where do we find those ones specifically, like GPS coordinates?
Can I bring in some native folklore for you guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know if it's, I say folklore, but Jen's dad, he's native, and he actually he told me something years ago that really stuck in to my mind was, if this animal stops and stares at you, It's allowing itself for you to take that animal for food. And that's really stuck with me. And ever since he said that, I watch the animals, and there's ones that will not stop and stay still. And, I can have my scope on it and I'm following. They won't stop because their life depends on it. But there's been other ones where it'll just stop and stare at me and say, here I am. And it's amazing. Like when he said that, it totally made sense to me. When he said, really resonated with how animals are.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. I grew up in a First Nations community here in the Okanagan, and a couple of my friends who hunt for buffalo, they went hunting for buffalo this season out in the prairies, obviously, and they said the exact same thing. They said when an animal is ready to give its life, it will present itself to you, and that's the one. If it's hard and it's like seems impossible to get the shot because that animal is running away from you, it's not the one. And I mean, it seems all obviously a little bit intuitive, like, yeah, if the animal's running away, it's not the one. But there is like they describe the exact same sentiment of having a connection with that animal where it stops and it says, I'm allowing you to take this life.
Yeah, that's pretty neat stuff.
Yeah.
Just shows that we don't control anything out there, right? It's it's nature. And so you try to learn their stuff, learn the patterns, but it's all nature, right? And
absolutely. Cool. Yeah.
So I'm gonna pause for 1 second because I'm having some technical difficulties on this end. So I'll edit this stuff out shortly, but my computer is having some struggles. So I'm gonna be back in a minute, and you guys can chat, and then I'll edit all this good stuff out later on.
Alrighty.
Perfect. Yeah, that's the struggle with the Joe Rich internet. I wondered about that. I'm like, man, we got two parties, like you guys and Drew, who are on Joe Rich internet. And I was like, hopefully we can keep everybody for the whole time.
Yeah. I thought aren't they Starlink?
Yeah, they're Starlink.
I know, they're supposed to be amazing. Drew has this, I think he's fixed it now, but he had like this one little blind spot on his Starlink that apparently is fixed now.
No.
Well, Starlink's working. What isn't working is my computer stopped recognizing that it's plugged in.
And now it's not plugged in.
It kind of paused and glitched almost.
Yeah, it did. I was like, oh no, he's frozen. Yeah, no, it's that's the one downside, I guess, of living way out in the boonies.
Yeah, we have TELUS, so ours is supposed to be a lot slower, and I teach spin online, so.
Oh yeah, Drew was saying that you guys were doing in-person classes, like Katie was coming up for in-person classes, and then you had to obviously switch to online at some point. Are you going back to in-person, or do you find the online is better?
I like both. So if I get bikes back, like, because I rent out all my spin bikes.
Oh.
Over the winter. And so like a lot of my clients will come online with my spin bikes.
Oh.
And, yeah. So
so you own like a fleet of bikes that you then rent out to people. Oh, that's interesting. Smart. You don't even have to store them.
Nope. Yeah, exactly. I get to store them in other people's houses and teach and coach spin classes online. So
how long have you been doing that?
2 years.
Oh wow, cool.
2 years almost. This will be the third summer, because the summer is when I bought them, because my gym didn't pick me to hire back because they had to come back with only a limited instructors.
Oh yeah.
Basically, they hired even like people that just started out back on, probably because they're on a lower wage.
Oh
That's thinking too, because they did that. Somebody who's been there for almost 16 years, and they didn't call her back either, so she was pretty ticked.
Oh, that's lame. I mean,
I've been on for 10 years. Yeah, so
whoa.
Pretty ticked too, but he's been trying to get me to go on my own because I give so much energy to this gym, and then I'm really not gaining anything from it, really. So he's been trying to push me into starting my own. And so when COVID hit, we were like, let's do it. And I was ticked at the gym too. So
Yeah.
so I went and bought a bunch of spin bikes and was able to do outdoor spin because they canceled all spin classes because it's too aggressive or whatever they try and say. But
Yeah.
outdoors you're allowed. So yeah, that's how I started. And then I was like, what am I going to do in September, October when the weather gets crappy? And I thought, oh, Spinco and another, I think Spinco is the one they started renting out their bikes during COVID too. So I was like, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a brilliant model, like to not have to store them in your own space for that period of time.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
It's so it got so like fast. Like people were like, I'd be interested in that because they don't want it. They're not sure if they're even like spin. They don't want to invest that money on a spin bike and then not use it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Two is there's a personal on a personal level because you're actually interacting with them through Zoom, as I use the Zoom platform, because I can have more people on at once, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you get to connect to them that way.
That's really neat. And also kind of like the silver lining of it, you know, you got like the involuntary kick in the butt that you didn't really want, but forced you to go out on your own. And now you have a successful entrepreneurial business.
Yeah. We've always been kind of entrepreneurs, like ever since we were young. Like I had a daycare for 7 years. I opened up my own home daycare when my kids were younger. Yeah. So, but always, I've worked for other people, as in like a restaurant when I was like 17, 18, 19. But then after that, I started my own stuff. So.
Wow. That's neat.
Yeah.
He's back.
He's back.
It's this, my computer's been doing it on and off for a year. Like every once in a while, it's just like, you just keep plugging it in, and then it recognizes it and there's some sort of hardware issue, but I'm like watching my power go down and I'm like, yeah, I'm trying different outlets, trying different things. Like this is, so appreciate the understanding.
You're good now?
Yep, we're all good.
Perfect.
So yeah, we'll enter back into a question and we don't
Keep
even
that last clip for a business podcast you ever do, because we've got on business. So
yeah. We went deep into the spin world.
Oh man, you have no idea. I've gone deep into the spin world, and Jen leaves you feeling ready for the day to start with the nap.
That's awesome.
Well, maybe kind of we've got this midway pause. Is there, we've got roughly 15 minutes left. Is there any specific areas, Justina or you guys, that you'd like to go into?
What? Yeah, maybe. Sorry, I'll let you guys answer if you have anything.
No, go ahead. You guys are.
Yeah.
You can ask.
Okay, so then I'll ask a question. We can.
How long have you been hunting, or have you been hunting?
Both of us?
Yeah, both of you.
Justina first.
So I got my hunting license and my firearms license 3 years ago. And my first year I was like, yeah, I'm going to become a hunter. And then I didn't do anything with it. And then the second year I was like, I'm going to buy a rifle. And so I bought a rifle. And I think I went out hunting once. I drove out into the woods and I was like, yep, these are the woods. And then drove back into town very shortly thereafter.
Okay.
And then this past year in probably August, I went, okay, you know what? My hunting license is going to need to be renewed soon because I think it's like 4 or 5 years or whatever, right? You need to renew it. And I was like, I have literally done nothing with it. So if this is the year, then this is going to be the year. And I dove really hard headfirst into it. And I tried to find people who would take me out hunting. And I found that really challenging actually as a new hunter. So, I mean, you guys both had the benefit of having somebody that was keen and willing to take you to go and help you through that really steep learning curve of like not knowing anything to knowing something.
Yeah.
Everyone that I tried to get to take me out was like, oh yeah, not sure, busy, maybe sometime soon in the future. And then it never happened. And so when September rolled around and I was getting partway through partway through that September season or months, I thought, if I'm going to do this, I'm just going to do this. So I started going out on my own. And so this past season was my first hunting season of really being avidly out there. And I spent a solid 30 days over the hunting season out in the woods trying to find deer and the mythical buck unicorns of the woods.
Yeah.
Isn't that the most interesting thing of every year that I've been out hunting? The more that I've gotten out, the more I've enjoyed being out. It's when you're like, oh, I've got a day here and I'm going to get out 4 days this year. And you drive out and you're like, you have no idea. You haven't scouted. You haven't seen any sign. You're just like hoping for something. But similar to Justina, I got my hunting license in 2007 after my boss took me out. And then kind of on and off and renewed. And then I went out, I guess 2017, 2018, and I got 35, 40 days out that year. Wow. And like, I'm very bad at hunting apparently, because I didn't see a single thing during that time that was shootable. But I did have a couple of like, hopefuls, but nothing that was legal. And but I loved it. I had an amazing time. And I think that's the thing that's the most interesting is when you lean into it, you enjoy it more. And it's easy to forget about the outcome filling the freezer and the input being like, I'm outside, I'm hiking around, I'm having a great time. I've made great memories. That's the big draw.
Yeah, definitely.
It is.
So what? Go ahead, Justina.
I was just going to say, because we are gearing this podcast towards helping new hunters, I would love to know from each of you, what is a piece of advice that you wish that you had known sooner in your hunting life cycle? What's something you wish that somebody had told you sooner, or an epiphany moment that you had that you thought, man, I wish I had known this last season or a month ago, or, yesterday when I saw that deer. What's that epiphany moment or thing that you wish that you had known sooner in your hunting life?
Probably to practice your gun more, like the loading, and because I was slow when I first started and I lost a lot of animals because of it, because I was just too slow. So just that practicing load,
yeah,
right? That
getting familiar with your firearm for sure.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
And I know the more you practice, the faster you would get, because you have seconds.
Milliseconds.
Milliseconds, yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Jay? What's something you wish that you had known earlier?
Like you mentioned how it can be a very solitary type thing, hunting, right? Like you mentioned how you had a hard time getting people to take you out. The people that I learned from that took me out, I actually found out that they weren't very ethical hunters, and not at all ethical at all. And I'm a big respectful of the animal. Like I really love the animals, right? And being ethical when it comes to the animal was really big for me. So when I saw the people that took me out, I learned to really choose my hunting community well, because there's a lot of bad hunters out there. Like we were talking about camo. Like, why do we wear camo? Why is Jen wearing camo right now?
I said it has to go with the podcast.
And the reason why we wear camo is so we hide from hunters, because we don't want to be seen, right? And
but that can be dangerous too.
Yeah, but, that's why they make the fluorescent, right? So you can be seen, because of the unethical part of hunting, right? And I can see why they make cartoons about bad hunters, Bambi and and all those That other one, there's a bunch of them out there. But not all hunters are like that, right? And so choosing my, I had to say no to actually some of my friends. I couldn't go with them, right? Because my one friend would not stop putting his finger on the trigger when we were practicing, and so I'd always hear a click when we're practicing, and I'm like, "Did you just pull your trigger?" And he had his gun like pointing towards my feet, and I was like, "You just shot my foot off." Right. And so I said, "You do that one more time, I will never hunt with you again." And he did it again. And really, we're still friends, but we've never
But not hunting buddies.
Yeah, never. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point, to pick your community well.
Yeah.
And you've still got all your digits and toes and everything, I assume, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the gun wasn't loaded, but still, it was still.
It's bad practice. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And like Jen said, practice your gun, right? It's what's gonna get you. And another one I think is preparing your meat. Back again, that's ethical, right? Like, your meat is going to taste good if you take care of it. And the guys that I went with, they just butchered their meat, dragging it out of the bush like they were dragging it with the trucks. And I'm like, and then we're supposed to eat that afterwards. And I really found out quickly that because we started hunting on our own, and we found out, and I read a lot how to take care of your meat, and because that's why you go out too. Part of it's the outdoors, but another thing is it's the consumption of it, right? And so it's preparation of your meat, man. Look after it, because that's all the taste in the world.
So that's like a terrifying piece. When I first got into hunting, and you're like, because it's a real thing. Like my first deer, it was, I had some trouble eating meat for a few days after that, because I butchered every step, I did everything, but you really come into real harmony with the animal, or maybe not harmony, but like a profound respect. What are the things that you can do to make sure that you're taking good care of the meat, and or what are the bad things and what are the good things, maybe, or if it's easy to name a few?
A couple of tips and tricks for not making your meat terrible at the end.
Yeah, because that's why a lot of people get into hunting, right? It's the meat. And so make sure it's cleaned. Carry water with you if you're way out. If you don't have that, if it's a quick type thing, don't skin it till you get home. Make sure you because once you skin it, your meat's exposed, right, to the elements. And so there's been times where we weren't able to, like it was too cold or something,
warm,
or too warm. Like if you go out like late August, like on the island, they have early deer season on the island, and so it's late August. Like it can be like 25, 30 above. It just depends on the weather. And so looking after that is getting it cooled, making sure you have ice with you, not let it sit too long. Like get the guts out of it as fast as you can. Once it, I know you watch them. If you ever watch the hunting videos, they wait till the next morning, they come and find it. And I'm like, every animal, I haven't had too many of those, but the animals that I've had that happen didn't taste as good as the ones that I cleaned right away.
And I've always wondered about that when people say, oh, we shot it just before legal light was out, and so we waited till the next morning. I mean, A, I always wonder about the condition of the meat, and B, how does it not get eaten up by the predators that are like, thanks for shooting dinner for us, we'll leave you some scraps in the morning. Like, I've never understood the leave it overnight thing.
Yeah, me neither. That's why we have our headlamps, and we clean it in the evening. And there's been times where we've had a little bit of a mishit, and it went a little bit further than we expected it to. And
you're tracking it in the dark.
And we track it until we find it. Like it'll be late in the evening sometimes, because we don't want to leave it overnight, right? We want to at least get the guts out, because that's what's going to spoil your meat. is the guts. And so once you get those out and you get it cooled off, then, hang it up in the tree or whatever, you're good to go. But, or another one is where butchers, we started with butchers. We do our own now. We butcher our own meat now. But back when we did bring them, one thing I learned was one guy didn't want a single piece of hair on the meat when you brought it in, because he says that wrecks your meat too when you're going to grind it into hamburger, and you don't want to be eating hair because it's pretty gamey, tasty. So yeah, it's
so a lot of people don't like deer because it wasn't done right.
Yeah.
And now we can truly say with our deer, most people, like even my mother-in-law, who just refuses to eat deer, we made a bunch of meatballs. She didn't even think, she forgot we were hunters for that moment. And she's like, oh, these are good. And she was eating it and we didn't say anything. And we're like, about 20 minutes later, she was like, oh, like she ate Bambi or something. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. We're like, you just said you liked it. You couldn't tell.
Now, are you guys hanging your whole deer? If you quarter it, what are you doing? What's that looking like?
You hang it to skin it, and then once you skin it, we do try to give it a couple of days at least to bleed out. Pretty standard. We don't hang it too long, especially if it's warm. Again, like if it's early September, you get an elk or whatever, right? It's going to be warm, and so you want to get it on ice, and so you just throw it in the cooler, especially if you're on a trip.
When we were in Campbell River, my parents lived there, so it was nice. They had a garage, so we were able to hang our elk in there once, and we only had 2 days, but then we quartered it and put it on ice and brought it home and butchered it.
Yeah. Because they do say to hang and to age it or whatever. They do that with beef. We've found no difference in the taste of our meat and the tenderness of our meat. There's been times where we've butchered it right there, turned it into steaks, threw it on the barbecue, that type of thing. It was still excellent. And so,
so you guys don't find any difference between hanging and aging it and just butchering right away?
No difference.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's really hard to hang a whole animal somewhere when it's warm out and you read everywhere and it's like, you got to do, I tried in the fall, I tried the like a wet, somehow basically you put it on ice and just let it kind of bleed out and before you process it for a few days in the cooler, and had seen some videos on that. But the hanging thing seems like a huge interference in your ability to do this at home. But it's good to hear that it's maybe not as important.
We've even used an air conditioner before in a shed.
Yeah.
Keep it cool. Yeah.
Plug it in an air conditioner just to keep it cool. And it works.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you guys, when it came to processing, how do you kind of like, do you just process it out in the fields if you have to, or are you bringing it home and laying out the tables and kind of putting a big setup together? And are you vac sealing, or what's your go-to?
We usually will quarter it. It depends on the animal. Like the elk it's a big animal, and so even just to move it, you have to quarter it, right? And so and then we'll hang the quarters, for a day or two. We'll
do one day, take about 4 hours, another 4 hours.
Deer, we'll do it all one shot. Takes like an hour, type of thing, and just do it.
But you bring the deer home whole, like obviously the elk you're quartering to bring home, but you bring the deer home whole and then process it in a day.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you guys, for storage of it, do you vacuum seal yours? Do you just brown paper wrap them, or how do you store?
Brown paper wrap is what we do. Yeah. My daughter used to work at a meat store and they were wrapping meat. So she taught us how to wrap it. So I just cut my pieces and, she taught us how to do it. So we had 3 of us at the time when they were still living at home helping us. So one would do the hamburger and the scraps, and then one would do the steaks, and one would do, so we got it down pretty good.
Production line.
And I even on top of that put spices on our steaks, some of the roast, some, and I'll label it with spices, because when you put spices on it, when it dethaws, it's ready to go, right? So
Oh,
I'll
that's
throw
smart.
garlic and prep it that way.
If you guys ever need help processing, I'm sure we could do a road show and set up a camera to try and get all the tips and tricks. Because man, it takes me so long every time. It's like, okay, and then this one again, and after you do one side, you kind of get back in the rhythm again. But it's a learning process every time for me.
It is. It depends. Like I said, we've become quite the elk hunters, and sometimes you don't have the tools to get it to the truck. You gotta do it right there. And there's one time one had fallen into like sort of front shoulder into a hole, and so I had no ropes, nothing.
It was just me and him, so
I couldn't pull it out. I didn't have.
There was just a random hole in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, it just landed in this hole, and so that was my first time doing a gutless method, where you keep the guts in and you just take all the parts off that way, and it worked really well. And I started doing that for the next ones after that.
So clean,
yeah,
way cleaner.
But it took that one time where I was really stuck with moving it around, and so I had watched a couple videos on it, and it's okay, let's do it, and it worked out really well.
What does that mean? Sorry, dive into that for me. When you say gutless method, what so you have this elk that's fallen partway into a hole. What did you do?
So the gutless method is you're quartering it without taking the guts out, and so you're going to leave the whole carcass there with the guts, right? You're just going to take your meat, what you need, and
off the bone and leave the shell. Oh,
yeah, leave the shell. And so we took all the meat off, and then once it gets lighter, it was still hard to even move once we got all the quarters off. It was like that last quarter that was in the hole, we're cranking it over, trying to get it to move enough to get it out. And it worked out really well. So like you said, Drew, every time is different. And same with heat, temp, everything. Sometimes it's so cold, you don't want to touch the animal, right? Because it's there. You're like, in your hands already freezing, right?
You can't wait to get in there.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts is sticking my hands in there. It warms your hands up pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep a couple of downloaded videos on processing just in case I get stuck when I'm out in the field. And the first time it was me and a friend, and I thought he was a very experienced hunter. And then we got a deer. And he's like, "All right, let's do this." I'm like, "How do we do this?" He's like, "I don't know." Oh, and fortunately we had like one bar of service, so we were able to get it on YouTube. And he was holding the phone, and I'm in there trying to gut this thing, and we got it and processed the whole thing, and did a pretty good job, but a lot more practice went into it before the next hunt.
It is a lot of practice, for sure. Just continue doing it, and it helps to get the animal right. A lot, and that's the tough part too. That's the toughest part of hunting, is getting the animal.
Yeah. So have you gotten one yet, Justine?
No, I had 2 opportunities at 2 different deer this past season, and I mean, lack of knowledge. I've talked to a lot of people about those 2 scenarios since they happened. And if I knew then what I know now, I probably would have had 2 deer in the freezer for this year. But no, I have yet to shoot a 4-legged animal. I've just had my luck with grouse so far. But yeah, it's definitely exciting. I mean, I now know that unicorn bucks do live actually in the woods, not just in the city where I can't shoot them. Did not get to fill my freezer this year with anything other than grouse.
Yeah, it's been bad for us this year.
It's a tough year, but it's hunting, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, the silver lining to me, I'm an eternal optimist. I'm like, I saw deer. So that is a bonus. Some people will go a whole season without seeing a shooter buck, and I saw 2. So that feels good to me.
Yeah, totally.
There's a whole bunch of people that are at home listening to this, hopefully, that are cussing you out right now, because a lot of seasons I went by and didn't see any shooters.
Yeah, and I mean, everyone's version of a shooter is different. During any buck season, I saw a 2-point that to me was a shooter because it was the first buck I had ever seen in a shootable environment. Versus, other than the bucks that I see in the city all the time, the nice, huge rack ones that that their safety zone is within city parameters. And then my second one was a 4-point whitetail that I literally stumbled on almost on top of. And those are two very lucky deer because they got the new hunter in the woods who didn't know what she was doing and didn't have enough of a skill set to be able to take a deer.
So I know we're getting a little bit deep into time here and want to be respectful of your guys' time. Maybe a couple of quick questions if we can of tips, tricks. Maybe first off, any resources that you found as you were getting into hunting, books, podcasts, anything that was an advisable source for all of us.
You came
Chase
prepared.
got it. Hunter Mag.
I've read a lot. The BC versions anyway. A lot of it's the States, right? So it doesn't really, they're different, but
Totally different.
it helped a lot just having a couple articles, reading, because I wasn't a big online guy back when I started, and so I didn't know what YouTube was, right? So those magazines, anything I could read. Really showed me how to just get out there, how to track them when the snow comes. Anything, it's amazing the
How to butcher them.
Yeah, they just have it there, man. It's so it's a good read if you're gonna get into hunting. Just grab some magazines, man. They're pretty accessible and they have a lot of information.
Nice. Yeah. Jen?
Yeah. Same.
Same?
I got a partner. I usually don't go out by myself. I have done by myself around here a few times, but I'm bad with direction in the woods, and I don't think some people just naturally can get lost really easy. And there has been a time where I actually walked into the bush. I didn't have my gun. I didn't have a flashlight, and I didn't have him and my son went the opposite direction. I was going to nap because we went early, and then afternoon I like to have my nap in the truck, just an hour. So I'm refreshed before the next 3 hours. And I went into the woods, or walked into the bush just to peek because I wasn't going to go to sleep yet because they were checking out the area. And so I walk into the bush, and I don't know what happened, but I turned and I thought I was walking the same way. Back to and literally I was not even 20 feet out?
No, you're further.
A little further, probably because it went the opposite direction. But yeah, and then the woods got thicker and thicker because we were on the island. So it was really, really thick. And I was like, hey, I'm not going the right way. And your mind starts going like this. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to yell. And because I was thinking maybe they'll hear me. And yeah.
Oh, we heard her all right. I thought she was getting murdered in the bush. That's what it sounded like. So my heart's pounding.
Bad.
Yeah, he's like, where's that bear?
Yeah.
He thought I was in a bear trap or something. I was just saying, I can't even remember what I said. I was like, I think I was trying to call Jay and Bryce. Like I was yelling their names because I didn't want them to think I was in danger. So I was just kind of, yelled their names or whatever. But they were like, what the heck is that, Mom? Like,
So one thing we do, what I carry it too. I don't typically get lost in the bush. I have a pretty good system to not get lost, but it's I get her to carry ribbon with her and mark her trail. If she's going in, mark your trail because the bush can get pretty thick. So.
Yep.
Yeah, you think that you're like, oh yeah, there's a clear path right there. And then when you turn around, it's not such a clear path anymore. So yeah, you definitely, I think that's something that everyone, unless you are, natural born, built-in compass, like really do need to be mindful of not getting lost in the woods.
I'm amazed how he just doesn't get lost. Like, and he doesn't carry a compass, but I think all the years of moss picking, and he had a really good moss trail guy.
Yeah, one of my best friends was a bushman. He taught me how to survive in the bush, and so My directions are, I don't get lost in the bush. It's, I'm sure it can happen, but it's once you got a system, how to get in and out, you won't get lost.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, I have two last questions for you before we wrap things up, and they're very critical questions. One, what is your favorite snack to take into the woods?
Nuts.
I like.
Same for you, Jay?
I carry granola bars with me.
Oh, you guys are so healthy. Okay, nuts and granola bars. Okay, and number two, are you a double sock person or a single sock person?
I am a double sock person.
Oh, double socker. Okay.
Socks?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you're going out into the woods, this is critical. Like, keep your feet have got to be warm. So are you a single sock or a double sock?
I'm single sock, but in the wintertime, I'll do double because my boots, because I always wear these short ones. So now I'm wearing better socks for hunting with my boots because we're always walking and I'll start getting blisters after, especially when we're elk hunting, because we'll literally spend 8 to 10 hours if we have the whole day and we're out
walking.
Like,
yeah.
Every day. Yeah. So I've learned the hard way wearing short socks compared to long ones in boots.
Yeah. Good socks. Merino wool. Amazing. No blisters on those ones.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so very much for coming on and chatting with Drew and I tonight. It really is amazing to hear people's stories and to glean knowledge just from your experiences that help new hunters to learn faster and be better in the woods. So thank you guys again for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes,
thank you for inviting us.
Thanks so much, guys.
All right. See you. Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody, for watching and listening wherever you are. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can find us everywhere that podcasts and video podcasts are found.
And if you have any comments or reviews, please drop them down below. We will get back to you, or you can reach us at questions@entrypointhunting.com.
And if you happen to know somebody who you'd recommend we talk to, whether they're an expert, an amateur, or growing in the sport, be sure to tag them in the comments or shoot us a message with their info.
And until next time, stay hungry.